Thank you, Kevin, for that kind introduction. Also, thank you, Tom, for your leadership and passion for sustainability. I'm Maureen. As Tom stated, at BD, sustainability is part of the way we run our business. It's embedded in everything we do in every partnership. While it might seem like we got here overnight, we've been building to this moment for the past few years. Specifically, in October of 2021, we announced our Together We Advance strategy as part of our purpose of advancing the world of health. We embrace connectivity between the health of our company, the planet, our communities, and the people we serve to realize a healthy, resilient world for all. We've set ambitions in 5 areas where we see the most opportunity for BD to create meaningful, measurable change over the next decades. To achieve these ambitions, we've established goals for 2030 and beyond that we track to measure our progress. Our climate change commitment is specific and cuts across the other 4 impact areas as well. As Tom mentioned, you play an important role in our journey because, regardless of the industry, no one company can do it alone. That's why we've spent considerable time defining our journey. Then we stepped back and thought deeply about how we can help you, our key partners, on your journey. Today, you'll hear a lot of information and have interesting conversations. You'll leave with new information, a network of resources, and a tool we built just for you. It's called BD Transformation Guide, Together We Advance. It's a step-by-step guide to help you become more sustainable. As I talk today, I'll take you through the steps with real information on our journey. I'd venture most of us have heard the idiom, what gets measured gets managed. We can argue whether Peter Drucker said it or not, but I think we can agree having a starting point and an ending point is an important part of defining a journey. I call the starting point the baseline. We baselined our scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions. These are the emissions within our direct control. Said simply, they're the emissions associated with our operations and buildings and the emissions from their energy sources. When we calculated that, we thought it was a big number until we calculated our scope 3 emissions. These are the emissions which we have indirect control. They're emissions from the materials that we buy from y'all, the associated transportation, and end-of-life disposal of our products produced, just to name a few. This number was exponentially larger. I would also venture to say, for most of you here today, service providers aside, scope 3 will be your largest percentage of emissions. For BD, step 1 was tackled in 2021, and step 2 we tackled in 2022. As part of our commitment to transparency, we've disclosed our baselines for scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3, and each year we report progress versus these baselines. So since we knew our starting point, we defined the destination and publicly declared our ambition. In 2021, we joined the Race for Zero to commitment by non-state actors to reduce emissions by half by 2030. At the same time, we stated our aspiration to set science-based targets. And I'm very happy to report that April of this year, not only had we set near and long-term science-based targets, but our friends at the Science Based Target Initiative, who are here with us today, validated our targets to ensure that we met their criteria and that they were aligned with the latest climate science. In addition, along with many of the US health systems, we joined the HHS Climate Pledge. So today we're driving to net zero by 2050 and have decade milestones along the way. By 2030, we'll have reduced our scope 1 and 2 emissions by half and worked with you, our suppliers and customers to set similar and strive for a more sustainable healthcare system. By 2040, we will reduce nearly half all scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, as well as making significant progress in scope 3. So just now, I've covered steps 3 and 4, commit and set public targets. One thing worth mentioning before I get into our results thus far, this summer, the Healthcare Climate Council certified BD as achieving their climate excellence standard for healthcare suppliers. We're proud to be one of only 2 recipients within the healthcare supply chain. With a clear baseline and defined targets, make a plan and activate a plan. That's step 5. Here, for scope 1 and scope 2, we have a clear glide path to get us to essentially zero by 2040. For BDX, we have year-on-year targets and plans to achieve these targets. Greenhouse gas is like any other metric in our operations. We review progress on a monthly basis so we have a clear line of sight on performance versus targets. Every one of our sites has a KPI for GHG. It's pulled into a monthly scorecard that you can see here on the right-hand side as an example. The same holds true for Scope 3, baseline targets and a plan. In our baselining action, we broke Scope 3 into the major emissions categories. It might be surprising to you that transportation is less than 15% of our Scope 3 emissions. That said, transportation is an important opportunity and a bit easier to solve. I call that low-hanging fruit. There are two other areas with greater leverage. If you look to the far right, end of life, that's a big Scope 3 emission source. In healthcare, it's an important lever because so much of hospital waste is regulated and ends up incinerated. It's an area of focus for us, and we're working with some of our key customers. Even bigger is emissions from our purchased goods and services. That's where we need the help from each and every one of you in the audience today. Just like we have a glide path and clear plan for Scope 1 and 2, we've developed the same for Scope 3, and we'll be working closely with you on that. The final step is share and engage. This means many things, one of which we're doing here today. You're an important stakeholder on our journey. We have many others who care deeply as well. Each year, we do a detailed job of talking about a wide range of stakeholders through many different climate disclosure mechanisms, one of which we take great pride is our annual corporate sustainability report published earlier this summer. Almost all of the information I share is included in this report, plus much more. I encourage you to read it. You will receive a transformation guide with more information and details on the steps I laid out. It also includes resources to help you on your journey. Before I wrap up, I thought I'd share a few sustainability projects across a broad landscape. Let's start with reduced emissions through renewable energy sources. This is our site in Fraga, Spain, with 1,300 solar panels installed in September of 2022 and provides enough energy to run the full warehouse, saving nearly $100,000 per year and over 250 tons of emissions annually. BD Excellence is the mindset and operating system that empowers our teams to continuously improve and strive for excellence everywhere, while upholding the highest levels of quality and staying true to our cultural values in the BD way. Our Swindon, UK site held a sustainability-focused Kaizen event this summer, identifying over $750,000 of savings and over 600 metric tons of reduced greenhouse gas emissions through better energy utilization. An area we're working with our customers is product end of life. While single-use plastic devices have revolutionized healthcare, their disposal comes at a large carbon footprint and a heavy cost to the system when they're incinerated as regulated medical waste. Our approach to singularity is currently focused on materials and sharps containers. It's the first of its kind and requires no intervention or change in process by clinicians. If successful, we look to expand it to other regulated medical waste streams. The last example is sustainable innovation. Our PureWick catheter is a great example of the relationship between safety, quality, clinical efficiency, and sustainability. This product, in a study with the NHS Trust in the UK, showed improved patient safety with fewer cardiac infections and extended hospital stays, at the same time reduced waste versus alternate clinical practices. In a 500-bed hospital with an average 3-day stay, waste was reduced by nearly 20,000 kilograms or 45,000 pounds, and 22 metric tons of carbon was eliminated. That's really great stuff. This is our BD journey. We're excited to be on it with you because together we advance. Now, I'd like to have a poll survey. If we can pull up our poll question now. The question we have for the audience, and we'd ask you to respond, is have you done your greenhouse gas scope 1, 2, and 3 baselining? And we'll provide you with multiple choice answers. Yes, you've done all 3 baselining, or only scope 1 and scope 2 baselining. Third option, no, and need help with baselining. And of course, the fourth option, I have no idea what you're talking about. So if everybody could take a minute and answer the poll. I don't know if our backstage team can share with us how the results look, but if we can't show them up here on the screen, we will follow up with that. Now, I'd like to ask our BD senior executive leaders to join me on stage. With me, I have 3 leaders from across BD. Let me introduce each of them, and then I'll ask a set of questions. Beth McCombs serves as the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of BD. She's responsible for leading all R&D activities and advancing new product innovation and development from early stage concept through launch and sustaining the current product portfolio. Tony Ezell serves as Executive Vice President, President of the Americas, and Chief Marketing Officer. In his role, he leads US, Canada, and Latin America regions and corporate marketing organization, and is responsible for an integrated commercialization approach to how we address and prioritize customer needs. David Shan serves as the Executive Vice President and Chief Integrated Supply Chain Officer. David has global responsibility for the leadership of supply chain, manufacturing and distribution operations, procurement, lean and operational excellence, environmental health and safety, and sustainability. Welcome to the stage. I have a set of questions that I'm going to ask because David, Tony, and Beth have such different roles. I'm going to ask the first question to each of you. And let's start with David. David, can you briefly tell me how your team is experiencing sustainability in the work that you do?
Sure, thanks, Maureen. And clearly, BD has delivered very strong progress across our very large and diverse manufacturing network. In that, in many ways, the results we've delivered and achieved are being delivered through a culture of Kaizen and essentially the continuous focus in minimizing waste, all sources of waste. Those actions have delivered reductions in carbon emissions and also costs, as you showed earlier. And in the spirit of continuous learning, we actually would be very happy to share further highlights with all of you of our best practices and in case it can help you, also inspire you to accelerate your own transition toward the greater efficiency and renewable energy.
Thank you, David. Now I'll turn to Beth. I'll ask Beth the same question. Can you briefly tell me how your team is experiencing sustainability in the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, Maureen. It's wonderful to be with this group today and to start to forge the partnership and how we innovate for sustainability. Just like any DFX, whether it's design for manufacture, design for cost, design for reliability, design for sustainability really needs to start in the beginning. And so very important from an innovation perspective that we understand what's important in terms of design for sustainability and build that into the product at the beginning. At the same time, the R&D team is very involved in sustaining activities in our current in-market portfolio, looking at alternate materials, alternate packaging designs, ways to look at end-of-life models to reduce our Scope 3 emissions. And for that reason, about 2.5 years ago, we started a focused team called the Sustainable Medical Technology Institute. That's a central group that's really helping the businesses identify opportunities in design for sustainability, and then working closely with external researchers, suppliers, and other partners to accelerate our progress in design for sustainability to minimize the impact of our products on the environment.
Thanks, Beth. Now I'll go to Tony. Same question. Can you briefly tell me how your team is experiencing sustainability in the work that you do?
Absolutely, Maureen, and thanks again for giving me a little bit of time with this group today. They're critically important to the partnerships that we have with customers. I'll really speak to this need globally, not just the Americas, but through the CMO hat, what we see from our customers globally, because they expect us to support their sustainability journeys. And this includes everything from offering products that are sustainable to support them in reducing their Scope 3 emissions. And that's what they expect of us. In fact, they're holding us accountable in many ways across the globe to help add to their sustainability by having sustainability criteria that are required in tenders or in RFPs here in the US, where we're required to work together with them and other suppliers to help them meet their needs. And ultimately, what we're seeing happen with increasing pace is just a general expectation that we are working in lockstep and partnership to help them to deliver what they need. And by that way, it's helping to gain an advantage for us by rapidly bringing to market more sustainable offerings for our customers.
Thanks, Tony. David, let's go back to you. Leading our integrated supply chain efforts, you understand well the challenges of bringing thousands of products to market efficiently. Tell us what that's been like operationally.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. And I think I'll complete the answer I provided a bit earlier. First of all, I want to say and start by saying how proud I am to the work that all our associates have been doing across PD, across all our plants, our sites, and have really risen to the challenge at hand. It's very inspiring to see, and I think it will be even more inspiring to see all our partners really rallying around. I know many of you have already started, but for those who need that extra step, we will look forward to engaging with you as well. So as you mentioned earlier in the introduction, all our manufacturing sites have exceeded our goals, reducing nearly 20% of the emissions from our own operations since the baseline. And a great illustration of this action is our continuous push for renewable energies. This has been a very important step. You did mention, and actually you had a great picture of Fraga, our plant in Spain. But across the BD network, we have currently, as of today, twice as many sites using renewable energies than we had back in 2019. So this really speaks to the speed and the depth at which we are going right now. We're also very systematic and much more systematic now also at planning for the transition to lower emission technologies as every time our asset base kind of nears the end of life, we really seek to have it replaced with a more efficient solution. And it's another axis of focus and advancement we like to engage with our suppliers moving forward, and for those working with us on delivering equipment and machineries. I mean, that's really an area of focus and connectivity we want to bring to life. But let me bring a few other examples. I think we have many, but I'll just illustrate further with a few examples that to me are truly showing and displaying the kind of the breadth of what we're doing. One example is compressed air leakage elimination. We have a site in Tijuana in Mexico, which instituted a compressed air leakage elimination program. That program is currently generating 1.3 million kilowatt hour of annual electricity reduction, which correspond to 530 metric tons of Scope 2 GHG emission reduction. It also provided an annual saving of north of $130,000 with no capital investment being utilized. Another example is you mentioned Fraga earlier, our Spain site. We have another example on the same site. They've actually upgraded their lighting using LED. So in one of the clean room in the site, we've replaced 300 fluorescent lamps with LED lighting. And this really helped produce an annual electricity reduction of 80,000 kilowatt hour, or equivalent of 31 metric tons of CO2, and leading that to this direct reduction. It will also provided about $7,000 of cost savings in electricity reduction. But I think more importantly, probably also on the kind of the EHS view of the project, we were able also to provide increased lighting levels and greater visibility for all our associates in this clean room, improving therefore the worker comfort. Finally, and last but not least, an example of a more complex efficiency project. We have a facility in Baltimore, Maryland, in US, and in which we have implemented a BMS, a building management system. That BMS upgrade allows 24/7 monitoring of emissions, and it's a software package essentially. And since then, we have seen 4.2 million kilowatt hour of electricity reduction, which equates to 2,100 metric tons of Scope 2 emission reduction. So which has also helped deliver close to $400,000 of saving annually. So those are just three illustrations of the things that we've been working and the teams have been working hard to deliver across the BD network, and I think they speak to the operational improvements that BD is driving right now. Thanks, Maureen.
That's fantastic, David. Thank you. That really brought into light how that glide path I showed earlier is actionable. I'm going to turn things now to Beth and ask Beth about something that's so unique to BD and super exciting on our sustainability journey. Beth, can you talk a little bit about the work underway within BD's Sustainable Medical Technology Institute, also known as SMTI, to bring sustainable design principles to our R&D teams who work across a very diverse portfolio? Beth?
Sure, Maureen. Like I said, I've been very pleased with the progress that the SMTI has driven over the last 2.5 years. And when we established this team, we really had 3 primary goals and areas of focus. Number 1 was eliminating materials of concern. So really looking across our portfolio, the SMTI has identified materials of concern like phthalates, like BPA, heavy metals, PFAS, for example, and really identifying where those materials are and where we could find alternatives, and accelerating the work to make a transition to alternatives. So that's number 1. The second is looking at alternate sterilization methods, both in the radiation, sterilization methods, as well as alternate gas methodologies, and looking for really doing feasibility work on our existing portfolio, both to ensure that we can, kill the bugs and get the sterilization assurance, at the same time, not jeopardize the functionality of the product. So some really good work happening with our product lines there to look at new methods. And then finally, it's really that shift left I was talking about earlier in design for sustainability, and really embedding sustainability design principles from the very early phases of new product development holistically. And the Scope 3 work that we're doing, and really doing customized glide path work of what it will take to get to net zero across each of our businesses and product lines, is giving us the specificity to know where we need to act to deliver on those goals. And so if you think about the diversity of our product lines, certainly in terms of purchase goods and services, we're looking at how do we lightweight our products, so they either the product itself or the packaging. For example, in our pharmaceutical systems business, we're looking at more simplified packaging that both reduces carbon footprint but also enhances the processability of our devices for pharmaceutical customers. So that's a win-win, both from a cost and a sustainability perspective. For our instruments that are powered in use, those electromechanical instruments, we're looking at energy consumption and how we can really drive efficiency for the footprint of the electrical usage. and drive better power management. And also hand in hand with that can go reliability. And then finally, from an end of life perspective, of course, everything around the amount of material, the material choice, as well as looking at end of life business models and actually partnering with new suppliers who are helping us think about what could that circular economy look like for BD products. So I'm really excited about the progress we're making and really excited to invite all of you on the journey with us. I'm sure you have great ideas. You're seeing things in other industries that we could really bring to MedTech. So we're all ears and really excited to accelerate our progress from here on out.
Thanks, Beth. That's great information. I may come back to you on the unique approach on the net zero glide path at a business unit level. But before we turn to that, I'm going to ask Tony a question. Tony, you lead our commercial function in the Americas and marketing worldwide. How are BD's customers approaching this challenge, and what are they asking from BD and from our suppliers?
Well, Maureen, as I mentioned earlier, the intensity and expectations are increasing significantly around the world. The good thing about today's discussion is this group will get a chance to hear from some customers directly. And quite frankly, I think that's the best way to answer that question. You'll be able to hear from some folks from Kaiser Permanente and Northwell both today, and they'll share exactly what they're expecting from us as well as others as we think about the whole concept of sustainability. But the fact is this topic is being raised around the world by hospital systems, group purchasing organizations, government customers, and they're expecting us to actually come with a plan and a view, not only for our products, but other things that we're bringing to market. And as one of our partners said to me a couple of years ago, actually said to our entire supply chain organization, that they are not in the business of supply chain and other things. They're in the business of helping deliver great patient outcomes. We are as well as a company. At the same time, while that's their mission, they're definitely savvy and they're driving focus on the understanding and leakage, if you will, between delivering on those patient outcomes as well as doing it with better cost structure, better carbon emissions and footprint. And so while we believe in healthcare and we know patient safety is important, product quality, operational efficiency, and sustainability are just as fundamental to what we need to deliver. So as we think about this expectation that's increasing for us, we spent a lot of time, as you know, Maureen, kind of studying this as a company, both through your organization, through our commercial organization, listening to our customers. And what I think probably the best thing I could do today is maybe share with you a couple of examples or some insights that we've learned from what we've studied from our customers. As they are maturing around the world, and I mentioned the speed at which they're picking up, more than half of our customers in Europe are what we would consider to be highly mature. And they've already started to implement these things as a part of their tenders. I'll share with you a little bit more of that breakout, even by country. And even in the US, about a third of our customers are highly mature as it relates to sustainability overall. And quite frankly, I think we can expect that to grow further as we see both margin pressures in those systems come into play, as well as the desire to take care of patients, but do it the right way. So when I say our customers are becoming more mature, it's a very nuanced view when we start to look at that, right? They understand the breadth of the types of actions that companies like us can take in partnership with our supplier partners like you to reduce things like packaging, as an example, or switching to more sustainable products in our product materials in our products, or helping to solve things like waste disposal or recyclables. You know, these are the kinds of things that our partners, our customers are starting to pay more attention to when we talk about sustainability. And in particular, our European customers are starting to formalize this in things like their tender criterion. And let me just give you an example of how this looks. If you look at a country like Norway, over 70% of the tenders in Norway include some type of sustainability criteria today. Germany at 38%. So if you look at Europe overall, it's moving. And much of that is in the last couple of years increased double or triple. And so you start to see these things start to happen. And while they're clearly connected to things like product design, et cetera, as I mentioned before, we believe at BD we can create more of a competitive advantage in partnership with you by significantly providing better products in general and also solving that problem through other things. An example might be like increasing, single stick success rates. We have products that are designed to do that. By doing so, we can reduce the number of times an IV catheter has to be wasted in a hospital system. That's better patient experience. That's lower cost to the hospital. And by the way, that's lower impact or reduced impact on the environment. Those are the kinds of things that we are aiming to do as we think about development of products, but also in partnership with our supplier partners like you. It's clear that the complexity of the landscape in which we operate is increasing. It's easy for people to make claims in this space, but it's harder to really help our customers choose what is overall the most sustainable products that we have today. That's what we aim to do. That's what we're doing. And that's what we'll be working to do more in the future. And we're eager to partner with our supplier partners who understand this, can help tell their stories as it fits with the entire value chain as we work to deliver more with partners like you're going to hear later today from Kaiser and Northwell. So those are just a few examples, Maureen, of how we're learning, we're working, and what we're hearing from customers around the world.
Amazing, Tony. Thank you for sharing that. Your insights are incredibly meaningful, I think, to the BD audience and also to our suppliers. There was a lot of nuance there, as you mentioned, in the maturity of the European markets, and as it's translating here in the US, we'll continue to see that. David, I'm going to ask you the next question. BD first committed to the net zero goal back in 2021. What motivated us then, but really more, what motivates us now?
Sure, thanks, Maureen. I think this was very well said by all the panel, right? Tony and Beth. I think what we and beyond our kind of clearly our personal beliefs into driving our own actions in order to make an impact. I think as a company, I mean, we've seen how we can drive and we can participate overall to climate change, and so this is really this is becoming very natural, right? And I think as I was also illustrating with all the different programs and projects that we see going on across our BD network and BD sites, while we're kind of helping support, enabling the broader BD organization to advance, I think we're seeing also a lot of pull and associates across every country where we operate really wanting to make a difference. And I think this is really one of the key drivers as we move forward, and we really look forward to partner further with all of the suppliers that also will be in the similar mindset, similar approach, and wanting to make a difference. So that would be my take, Maureen.
That's great information, David. I really appreciate you sharing that. This notion of collaboration continues to come up, and I think I'm going to ask Beth a question, but my final question is going to be back to all three of you in a minute. So I'm going to tee it up for you so you can think about it, and I'll come back to you. And that is, you have such unique roles, and you each are so expert in your space. How do you, the three of you, internally collaborate? What's the connection there? But I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to turn a question to Beth. You talked about the glide path work for Scope 3 and how critically important that is. One piece of that is how will that help us meet our long-term targets? But then the second piece of that, Beth, is what are the challenges that we face in terms of that?
Sure. So of course we committed to net zero by 2050. So we need to, chart out that path. And as an engineer and a problem solver, the best way to do that is to start with data. And so Maureen showed earlier the chart that had at a BD wide view, like what are the contributions to our scope 1, 2, 3 emissions. We've really broken that down by business, and it's helping us to get very specific about where we can reduce carbon footprint from more of a business driver perspective. So thinking about from a procurement, choosing suppliers with green energy, or thinking about having our suppliers closely located to the market so we can reduce freight. Those are some of the business drivers. And then on the technical side and from a design standpoint, really focusing on material selection, design for, the ability to recycle batteries. There's just a lot of specific considerations depending on the product portfolio. And so we're really digging in and identifying what are the lowest hanging fruit opportunities and what are the more complex, and trying to get after the early ones faster. And just Maureen, I think in terms of challenges, a lot of it is just the balance of delivering sustainable solutions without increasing costs to our customers. And I think I mentioned, like, there's places where we have those win-wins, but other places where, for example, the materials may not be as developed, and so they're more expensive. And so how do we help drive scale with some of these alternate materials so that we can still be as cost neutral as possible for our customers while delivering sustainable solutions? Because we know our customers also expect quality, cost, as well as sustainable solutions. So I'd say those are the challenges. And I'd be happy to speak maybe to the collaboration question, just for efficiency. I mentioned some of the business drivers as well as the design drivers. That's where David, Tony, and I need to be very closely aligned. So David and I have, we chair a product impacts council where we're really bringing together what we need to do in supply chain and what we need to do in R&D to make all of this happen. And so it's a very strong collaboration and a strong handshake to get that right. At the same time, we really need the voice of our customers, and excited to hear directly from Kaiser today and Northwell. And we work closely with our regional commercial leaders to get close to the voice of the customer and understand what's important to them, because sustainability isn't completely defined in the same answer for everyone around the world. And so we need to really triangulate and stay close to that so that we make the right prioritization and drive the most important impacts for our customers. So that's how I'd answer the collaboration question. And there's many other players like regulatory, quality, et cetera, that all need to play with us to make this happen.
Thanks, Beth. And I appreciate the efficiency in answering both questions. The insights that you provided were very pragmatic and practical on the scope 3 opportunities and also challenges, and that partnership and linkage amongst the C-suite is critically important. Let me turn it to David and see if there's anything that you wanted to add to Beth's comments about internal collaboration.
Yeah, no, maybe just adding on a kind of the full end-to-end view, right? Because the integrated supply chain is about connecting those dots from a supplier to customer standpoint. So you'll hear also later on from our partner DHL, who's actually working with us more on the kind of logistics and distribution and the downstream of what we do, but highly important clearly in advancing and connecting those dots. And clearly also, so Beth alluded to kind of the partnership with ourselves directly, and also with alongside the R&D teams across the company, and clearly also working with Tony and his teams alongside relative to any supply chain topics and how we can drive efficiencies there in both the delivery and the efficiencies in getting product to our customers. So I think that covers pretty much it all. Thanks, Maureen.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Tony, any additional comments on internal collaboration?
Well, it's always hard going third when you're talking about collaboration and we're all fully aligned. So I joke sometimes that Beth and I in particular are hooked at the hip, all the way down the value chain, up and down the value chain. And as David mentioned, we're inextricably connected. Maybe the thing that wasn't mentioned in detail by Beth or David is just a new product development, as an example. where we really are focused on not only bringing good products to market, but things that will support, not just through materials, but also through efficiency, our whole goal of sustainability, particularly as you think about what our customers are focused on. So, I think you'll see this come through loud and clear, how we collaborate through Steve, who will talk to us here in a moment, Stephen Chung over at Kaiser, because we've been integrated all the way through our value chain back here at BD in our partnership with Kaiser, as an example. And you see the same thing happening in other places like Europe. So we're connected for sure, all the way up and down the value chain.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. I know it's always hard to be the last one to answer that question, but you knocked it out of the park. I am getting the 5-minute warning. So I have a couple of things to do before we turn things over to Kevin. The first one is that I understand there's an audience question, and the audience question that came through, I can read it off. And panelists, relax, because I think I'll field this question if that's okay, but certainly feel free to chime in. The question from the audience is BD integrating performance compensation of executives based on the company's sustainability performance yearly? This would cover executives at the management hierarchy, including CEO, accountable, and equal ownership. It's a great question. It's a question that comes up on many of the sustainability rating surveys. And it's a question and opportunity that we're looking to in the future. We haven't specifically defined strictly at a C-suite sort of level. What we've done is from sort of a different perspective, which I think is at this moment in our journey, the more effective one. I talked to you about the scorecards that we have on GHG reduction. And so we've incorporated that into the KPIs, and that is part of the performance evaluation across the entire organization. So delivering on that, particularly in ISC, but through other functional areas. So we've got the sustainability performance embedded in our overall performance plan. If we will do something different from an executive C-suite level, that's still to be determined, but that's a very good question. We like the approach that we have today, and I dare say that we'll venture to continue that in the future. The other thing that I wanted to do before I thank our panelists is tell you a little bit about the poll survey that we conducted at the beginning of this panel. And it looks like we have a really nice spread or split on the answer around have you baselined your Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. We've got a small percentage that say they have no idea what I'm talking about. So you'll stay after class and we'll get into more detail on that. But it's about, a third, and a third on all, having done baselining across all three, only Scope 1 and 2, and needing more help to begin their baselining journey. So that's good information for us so that we know who's in the audience and what help we can provide going forward. Finally, I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists. I really appreciate Beth, David, and Tony, and your candid conversation. Also, your strong partnership. I think that's a unique piece that as I look across organizations, are the senior leaders well connected and informed and supporting one another on this journey. And so that's a key takeaway for this audience, is to see how well connected these senior leaders are on the topic of sustainability. So thank you very much for your time and your insights, but mostly for your leadership. Now I want to turn things over to Kevin Nelson, and he's going to take us through the next part of our agenda. Kevin?